My name is Ashaque Ali. This is my story for Colourful Heritage. I was born in Pakistan and on 3/3/45. I am 71 now. My father's name was Fateh Ali. My dad came here in 1947. He got a train or a bus to Calcutta. He came on the boat and he was 2 weeks in the boat coming here. Halfway, I think he said he was, when he heard about the partition. So obviously my dad didn't have any worries because we were already in the Pakistan but in 482. So that was one good thing about him. So imagine if we were in India, how his time would have passed, how much worried he would have been because of all the things that happened. So my father came here, and originally what all the people came for was just to make money and then go back to Pakistan, and because they had nothing or hardly anything, just to make life better for themselves and for their brothers, sisters. My father came straight to Glasgow, and he stayed here and worked for 3 years, and he made some money and he went back after 3 years. He had 4 brothers, his mother and 1 sister. So because, like I said before, we didn't have anything in Pakistan, so he bought a bit of land and he built a row of houses, 5 houses for himself and his 4 brothers. And then then his money finished. So he thought, oh, I'll just go back once again. About a year or 2 years later, he brought us over. He bought a house in Nicholson Street. In those days, there were no Pakistani shops, and so we couldn't get meat or anything like that. My uncle used to go to the farm, buy half a dozen chicken, put them in a brown bag and bring them home. And then he used to, well, I didn't used to watch it. I couldn't watch it. But he used to do them, cut them in the house. And nowadays we go to the shop, we tell them, oh, cut it this way, cut it that way. In those days, I don't know how he used to cut it. Whoever came home from work first used to bake all the chapatis and curries, and the rest would come later on. So it was hard days for them. My father was 25 or something, I think. Us young children, leaving your home, coming thousands of miles, took them a month to come here, and then working here alone. No phones. The only way to get in touch with was a letter, which was, took a month to get here and to Pakistan. So they were alone, and it was work all the time. Obviously, they were brave. From what I heard, they used to cry at night time because they missed their family and missed Pakistan, and they were here alone. So you can't imagine how they felt. At the beginning, when my father came over, he was uneducated. So what he did was filled up a case with stockings and jumpers and shirts and ties, and he used to go around houses selling those. When I had school holidays, I used to go with my dad as well with a small suitcase. So I know how hard it was for him. They used to order things from him. They used to say, oh, I need this size and this color. He used to say, okay, when I come back again in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I'll bring that for you. And then he used to obviously get that special order and take it back. There were not many Asians in my class. I think I was just 1 or 2 maybe. I can't even remember. My father used to give me 6pence for the bus, to take a bus to school and back. But what happened was, I walked the first day, I seen a shop on the way, it was a bakery, and I said, okay, I'll buy a cake. So I liked it so much that I never told my father, He used to give me the sixpence for the bus fare, but I used to walk to school and walk back and buy the cake. I went to school for 2 years, and then after 2 years, I got ill. I started losing weight, and I was having pains in my chest. When we went to that doctor, he sent me for an X-ray, chest X-ray. So when they X-rayed me, they found out that I had TB. I was in hospital for 6 months. The hospital was in Maryhill, and because of my father's work, he used to come and see me once a week. So luckily, after being in hospital for another 6 months, I got well. You know, when I was in hospital, because I was the only Asian, there were 20, 30 people in my ward. It was a big, big ward. They were very caring because I was different. In those days, there were not many Asians here. So the doctors and the nurses, they were all looked after me really, really well. So I didn't really miss too much because everybody cared so much for me. And then when I got better, I started school again. And by that time, my father gave up, going selling clothes. He bought a small shop in the Gorbals. So I used to go to school in the morning. My father went to the shop, I went to the school, and then 3 o'clock or whatever time I finished school, I used to go to the shop with my father. And we kept the shop open till about midnight, because I think in those days, not many people came to our shop. There was a shop across the road, they went there. So that shop closed at 6 o'clock. That's when we got busy. So then we had no cart, obviously. We used to walk about 1 o'clock, we used to walk home, me and my father, 2.5 miles at night time. And my mother used to stand in the window looking for us coming because we were walking. It was very hard days. You know, people nowadays don't realize how hard our first generation worked. Although I'm the second generation, because I was the oldest, I had to help my father. And my father was only educated, but even when my brothers were young, he wanted them to be doctors. That's what he used to say. He says, "That'll be my wealth." In those days, when a child became 15, their parents used to buy them a shop just to make money. My father didn't do that. He said, no, he's going to educate his children to be doctors. So just because I was the oldest, I had to help my father so my younger brothers can be something. Although in my last year, I came first equal with somebody, which means I could have been something as well. You know, I could have went to university, college or whatever. But because my father needed me, I just stayed with him in the shops. You know, so my younger brothers can be something. The shop my father had was a grocery shop. All the grocery things, biscuits, tins of things, tins of meat. Well, I think why I worked everything for my father was because he worked long, long hours. It was, I don't know, about 8 in the morning till midnight. So it was a long, long time. He had to work to make something, make some money. Why the shop got better and better was, in those days, if people didn't have the money, he still used to give them something. Okay, whenever you get the money, you can give it to me. And obviously they did. That way, my father built up trust with his customers. So obviously, if they got something and they owed something to my father, they would keep coming because he was so good to them. Obviously, they had to be good to him as well. That's the way it worked. Trust both ways. So I started working in a shop called Galbraith's. It was a company shop. So when I started, I used to get £2.50 a week. So I worked there for about 2.5 years. When I went to the shop, the manager there said, my name is Ashaque Ali. well, Ashaque Ali or whatever. So they said, oh, it's going to be hard for customers, because the customers that came, they wanted to we had to talk to them, they talked to us, they got to know each other, we got to know each other. So they said, we'll call you Alec. So all the customers knew me as Alec. So the other funny thing is, even my wife, she still calls me Alec. So I learned quite a lot because I worked so hard, and there used to be an area manager. He taught me to write the signs, because in those days you used to write big signs saying, oh, John West Salmon, 10 pence or whatever. So I used to write all the signs for that shop. He taught me how to do it. So that helped me later on when I went back to my father. I used to write special offer signs, you know, put them in the window. He brought two of his brothers over, and he made them a shop as well. And I remember they were the same. They didn't go to school either. So I used to go and put the prices on everything. And the funny thing was, because they didn't know English, when the customers used to come in, they used to say, tin of soup. Maybe they knew about the soup. And one of my uncles, I remember, he used to point to all the tins, you know. and then if he pointed to that one, they used to say yes. So and he used to give it to them. That was so funny. But 52, we moved to Maxwell Road. Because the house was small, and you know, the family was bigger, and they obviously had an inside toilet as well. My father got ill. He had a heart problem. So then I thought he couldn't climb the stairs. So I bought a house in Dumbrek. You must know, there was only one mosque, which was downstairs. It used to be called Seamen's Club or something, because there used to be people bringing stuff over from Pakistan on boats. It was their club at the bottom, and then upstairs to that we made a mosque, although it was just a big hall. But and obviously my father used to send me there, my mother, to learn the Quran and everything. I want to say something about the central mosque. If I remember right, I think it took a long time for it to make, I don't know, 20 years, whatever. But when it was made, it was beautiful, because it was the biggest mosque I had seen. Because I remember the mosque in Pakistan, 482, which was very small, and now this was so big, and it was amazing, and it was beautiful. Because I was born in Pakistan, I was 8-9 years old, and I lived there. I remember everything about Pakistan. I consider myself Pakistani, and obviously Scottish as well, but I've got two identities. I love Pakistan, I love my motherland, which I'll never forget. I love going back, because although my father's brothers and sisters, they're not there, because I go back every few years, I've fallen in love with their children, who are my cousins. Well, when I came, I think there were very few Asians here. And I was lucky. I am a friendly person, so obviously if I was friendly, the Scottish people had to be friendly. And the funny thing is, you know, when I went to school, all the girls used to come, you know, they were all after me. I don't know why, because I had a suntan, and they don't have a suntan. The Scottish people are really friendly people. I think everybody knows we worked very hard, digging roads and driving buses. So obviously, and obviously lots of other things. So if it wasn't for us coming over, I don't know how this country would have been. The last thing I want to say to the generation now, well, my children and grandchildren, you're very lucky, because the first generation with my father, your grandfather, worked so hard to, you know, get us here. But on the other hand, please don't forget Pakistan. that is your homeland. Although you are Scottish, but you are still Pakistani as well.